Construction is present everywhere you look, whether it's in roads, buildings, or bridges. Very little can actually be done without construction being involved in some aspect of it. Like any other essential part or basis of our world, it needs to be done right. Construction failures are a serious issue and unfortunately happen more often than they should. I want to raise awareness in the builders and homeowners so they can too avoid these common mistakes and oversights. After doing research online and interviewing professionals and reviewing textbooks and specification books, I have condensed the information to just a few key points. Some of the most common failures in residential construction occur in the foundation and soil preparation phase, the roofing phase, and the framing phase. I have condensed this information and I'm going to expand on these issues and why these failures happen. So the first issue I'm talking about is regarding the poor soil preparation and the foundation failures that tend to happen. This is one of the first phases of building a house, and the foundation is essentially what the house sits on, and the house is supported by this foundation. So the first issue that tends to happen a lot is that the soil testing is poorly done. This means that the companies either don't test the soil at all or don't do a very good job testing it, so they get very general results. So this makes it so a company could potentially build a foundation for a very dry soil, but the soil ends up being very expansive because their results were not accurate. So when the first rain comes, the whole foundation starts cracking, which is a huge issue and very expensive to fix. The next issue is the unequal settlement of the subsoil. This is about how under a house there could be many different types of soil, and they each settle at different rates. So when you are building a foundation, you need to make sure you have the same type of soil underneath to avoid the one side settling more than the other. The last issue is with the moisture content in the soil. This also has to do with expansion and contracting of the soil. The more water in it, the more expanding it does, and when the water dries out, the soil sinks and settles. So that means the house keeps going up and down and cracking that foundation. The failing foundations, they're the most prevalent failures in construction as a whole. It is the support for the rest of the building, and it needs to be done right. The next phase is with the framing of the house. The framing gives the support and structure to the house and helps to seal the house as well. So the first issue, is dealing with the wood decay. This can happen through beetles, through water, or through fungi that just sits and eats at this wood, making it weaker. The second issue is with compression and tension. Compression means if you have a post or a pillar and there's a lot of weight pushing on it, that's a lot of stress on that pillar, causing it to swell, splinter, and eventually break and fall down. Tension deals with a piece of wood being pulled apart. This happens in the roofing trusses. Trusses are a triangular shape with web-like beams making up the center of it. These beams have tension on them. The third issue is with the failures of connections and the eventual failures of units. This is with the connections being the nails, some brackets, any iron fastenings that are connecting these pieces of wood together. If they start rusting, they start becoming loose, the wood keeps expanding and contracting. Eventually these brackets could break, making the whole unit fall apart. which is of course not good at all. The fourth issue is with wood expansion. Basically, when you're framing a house, you have to wait till the wood acclimates to the climate that it's going to be built in, so it doesn't expand and contract in the assembly, causing the whole house to become loose and break and crack. So if, for example, if you're moving wood from a very humid place down up into Colorado, which is very dry, the wood has to sit out in the environment and dry out for a few days before it is assembled to be a house. The last issue is with the lack of support. This happens in the floor when the beams running across the floor get punctured with holes for the piping, for the plumbing and HVAC. People still do this, and there's only a certain way. You have to do research and look into it and see how big of holes you can make and where exactly is the best place to make these in order to maintain the whole support of these beams in the floor, so the floor doesn't start sagging or squeaking. All phases of construction in a house are very important, but the framing is what gives the house the exterior support and shape, and it's also very important to support and seal the house to avoid additional damages. The last point I am talking to you about is with the roofing and the failures with that. So basically, the roofing keeps the weather out, keeps the house dry, and protects the house. The main issue is with leaking roofs. The way a roof is put together is there is like a 1.5 inch plywood board that goes across the trusses on the roof. On top of that is underlayment, felt underlayment. Then comes the flashing, which protects all of the penetrations through the roof, which includes the air vents, chimneys, all of that stuff. The flashing helps wick the water away from that entry. And after the flashing goes on around those entries, then you put all the shingles on. And everything is built so the water doesn't come back up, and it just keeps going down into the gutters, into the ground. So the main issue with these leaking roofs is around the flashing, where the penetration is most likely to happen. The second issue is uniform granule loss. This is regarding the shingles when they get older. It's a natural aging process, and the just top surface of the shingles keep wearing off and wearing down, creating a more thinner shingle and a less durable shingle. When this happens, obviously it's time to replace your roof, but the climate, hail, and if it's a low quality shingle, those things kind of help that process move along a little faster, which is not what you want. The last issue I'm talking about with roofing failures is if it's just a poor installation or poor workmanship. If that is the case, they could be secured incorrectly, causing weather like the wind, ice, snow, sun to cause more damage to the actual shingle. Also, they could be a poor quality shingle, and if it's a bad installation with poor workmanship, then penetrations in the layers could happen more often, and there could be little flashing, so water will get underneath and will affect and probably decay the sheathing underneath the shingles. So having a quality roofing system can prevent other problems from surfacing throughout your house as well. It's not an overly complicated process, and the time spent doing it right will save money down the road for sure. So in conclusion, I just wanted to share this information with you in hopes to raise your awareness of the effects of poor construction and be able to take action sooner than later in your own homes, since no house is 100% perfect, and as a house ages, it will obviously wear out and need repair. With proper care and upkeep of your foundation, of your framing, roofing, and other aspects of your house, you can catch those hazards sooner and faster and help your house to last for years to come. Thank you for your time.